My name is Dan Fenn. I want to welcome you to the latest edition of Lexington Remembers. This is a special segment which is focusing on the World War II veterans of Lexington, given the anniversary coming up. And our guest today, I'm delighted to say, is my old friend Bob Edwards. We've worked on several things together. He has been a stalwart member of Lexington Remembers, the committee, and so much else around town. So much else around town, as a matter of fact, that he was awarded the Lexington Minuteman cane at the April 19th celebration a few years ago. I notice he doesn't use it. It's a beautiful cane, actually. So, Bob, what was your wartime experience? When did you go on active duty?
Well, I graduated from college in 1944, spring of 1944.
Yeah, I was supposed to.
And as an electrical engineer. And
where were you at college?
I was at Union College. I had a full tuition scholarship for the whole 4 years. I was a pretty good student.
Good.
I was third from the top of my class in high school of 193 people.
Wow.
So I did all right, and I was awarded 5 scholarships. And
Great.
Selected Union College because it was full tuition for the whole 4 years. So when I graduated from that, my draft board was eager to get hold of me.
They sure were.
They were still drafting people because the war was still on in the Pacific. And so I was drafted and put into the Army by my draft board. But I had applied for a Navy commission before that, right after I graduated college. And I wanted to work on radar. But they didn't wait to see if that was coming through. They just drafted me and stuck me in the Army. So I was in the regular Army for a short time, and then they found out I was an electrical engineer, so they said, oh, we need those for work on the B-29 bombing radars over in the Army Air Corps. So we're transferring you to the Army Air Corps. So I got out of the regular Army and into the Army Air Corps. I was in that a short time, all ready for bombing school on radar. And they rode up to me in formation one day and said, go up to headquarters. You're being transferred again. I said, where am I going now? Well, I got up there and there were papers all over the desk. And the officer said, I don't know how you did this, but you've been in the Army, you've been in the Army Air Corps, now you're getting a commission in the Navy. So
That's pretty fast rise, I must say.
3 branches of the service in a fairly short
Your
time.
service record must be a weird-looking thing.
So I've spent 2 years in the Navy working on radar, and to learn that radar work, I was assigned for courses in radar at Harvard and MIT. So a good education.
Yeah, I guess. Where were you? You were around here then?
Right here at Harvard and MIT.
Yeah.
And so after that, I got assigned to the Naval Research Lab in Washington. I was there for some time. And finally, after into the second year, I got assigned to decommissioning base where they were decommissioning ships that came in from the Pacific Ocean,
Mm-hmm.
from the Pacific warfare areas. So that's pretty much it. I never got overseas myself. I was one of the lucky ones that
Yeah.
did out my whole career in the United States.
Yeah, yeah. Now, when somebody was telling me the story of the first experiment with radar when they, from MIT, they aimed it at the Christian Science Church, right? And then they sent back a message that they had succeeded.
Yeah. Shortly after that, somebody got the idea of detecting a ship that was going down the Charles River.
Uh-huh.
And so they detected it on radar, and that became another first.
I see. And when was that?
Oh, gosh, that was pretty early.
I thought so, too.
I don't know the year, I'm sorry.
Was it before the war?
Yeah, before
Yeah.
the war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Back in the early 1930s, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, the principle of radar is fairly simple.
Yeah.
They shoot out a beam of microwave energy. It goes out in a narrow beam and it hits the target, if there's one there, and comes back, and it's detected at the starting point on a receiver.
Mm-hmm.
And that tells them the direction that that target is located and how far away it is. And that's how they detect airplanes and ships and
Yeah.
various things.
I heard the story. I don't know if it's apocryphal from one of the editors of the Christian Science Monitor, and he took great delight in the fact that that they had sent a coded message when they succeeded with the Christian Science Church experiment, and the coded message, as I recall it, was Mary Baker Eddy with one eye. So that was their way of reporting that they had succeeded with this thing.
Well, he probably knows better than I do about that.
Yeah, right. Well, he got a big kick out of that.
That's good.
So when were you discharged then?
In fall of 1946.
Uh-huh.
And because of all the radar background that I now had, I had no trouble getting a job at Raytheon.
Yeah, I bet.
And
Now, what did you actually work on? What did you actually do with radar?
I worked on design of components and construction of them, and development of new sources for microwave power in radars.
Mm-hmm.
And there were dozens of radars designed.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked on that, and it was a fairly successful career. I was there 43 years,
Mm-hmm.
so I couldn't have been too bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
I liked it. I had fun.
Yeah.
And,
And where did you live? You were in uniform, but
well, I was out of the uniform in fall of 1946.
yeah. But when you were in uniform, where did you live?
Oh, well, here, when I was going to school here, I was able to stay. I stayed in my fraternity house,
Really?
Sigma Chi, for a while.
Yeah.
They let me do that. And I stayed at a rooming house for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were pretty free about where they let us hang out.
And how many other naval personnel were? Was there a large number of you? Or?
A moderate number. We probably had 100 people in
Yeah.
class at a time.
Yeah.
And they were excellent courses.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so...
And I imagine MIT and Harvard were pretty different during wartime than
Oh, yes.
peace.
Yes. We marched in formation to class up through Harvard Square.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the atmosphere. I left in 43, left Harvard in 43, and by that time, things had changed big time around Cambridge.
Oh, yes.
So you were discharged then, and then you got the job at Raytheon with very little difficulty.
That's right. And I worked on these components of radar systems, and a lot of different kinds of systems. There were air traffic control radars for controlling planes from one airport to another.
Yeah.
I still have those today. There were marine radars for guiding ships across the ocean and around harbors. And we did a lot of defense missile technology, the Hawk and the Patriot system. We worked on those and developed the radars that were used in those systems. And let's see. Oh, we did some foreign technology analysis too. They would capture tubes and equipment from foreign countries and send it to us for analysis. And we'd send them reports on what we found out about the operation of it.
Okay.
And weaknesses. So it was real interesting work.
Yeah.
I really worked in conjunction with CIA and the National Security Agency and 2 or 3 Navy intelligence agencies and the U.S. Army Missile Command in Huntsville. And so that was very good background too. At one point I had the highest security clearance for several years in our division.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Really. And how old was Raytheon when you joined it?
Oh, it was formed in 1922.
Oh, is it that old? I didn't realize that.
As a matter of fact, when I retired in 1990, after 43 years, I went to work volunteering at the archives where they kept thousands of pictures and correspondence about the history of the company. And I got so interested in it that I co-wrote a book. I was a co-author of this book.
Oh, great.
This is my book.
Oh, wonderful.
And a picture of people looking at air traffic control radars.
Now, where was Raytheon when it started? Waltham?
Well, no, it was in Cambridge, Kendall Square.
It was down by MIT.
There are pictures of that in here,
Yeah.
of the first place that it
Yeah.
showed up.
And when was Charles Francis Adams the president?
Oh, for several years. In the 1980s, 1990s, along in that time period.
And who were the key people that founded Raytheon? Were they MIT people?
Vannevar Bush was one of the founders.
Yeah, okay. All right.
And there's a guy who invented the microwave oven. He has the patent on it, 1945.
Yeah.
And I worked on that program for about 3 years.
I'll bet.
The ovens used to be huge in size, like the size of a refrigerator. That's all we knew how to make from World War II. Big, heavy, clunky equipment. And that equipment was not suitable for home use. Nobody wanted one of those big things in their house.
Yeah.
And so I worked on the reduction of it to the present size, reduction in size and cost and so forth, until we got down to what we have today for microwave ovens. Today, everybody has one.
Yeah, right. I remember when Raytheon moved to Lexington, the old farm there off Spring Street
Oh, yeah.
and 128. And that was the headquarters for a while.
Yes, that's right.
And is that what drew you to Lexington, you and Francine, when
No,
they moved to here?
no, I just knew that Raytheon made excellent equipment, which I had used in wartime.
Uh-huh.
And it always worked, and it was reliable and well thought out. And I thought, gee, I want to work for that company.
Yeah, I see.
And so,
That was when it was still in Cambridge.
yeah, well, no, it was still here in Waltham at that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And when did you and Francine move to Lexington?
Well, we were married in 1963, and we moved here in 1964.
I see. Why?
So, well, because it was convenient to where I worked in Waltham.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, that worked out very well.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed living in Lexington all these years.
Yeah, good.
So it's been, what, 57
Have you
years?
moved much, or have you always lived pretty much?
Once we got to Lexington, we stayed here.
Yeah. In the same place?
Yep,
Yeah.
yes.
Good. Well, that's good. And then you two got involved in a lot of activities in town.
Yes, we sure did. One thing I didn't mention back in the beginning, I first made my world appearance in the 1939 World's Fair in Flushing, Long Island.
Yeah.
I had won a high school science fair prize for an electric high voltage spark coil that was this big and shot electric sparks this long.
Yeah.
And they thought it was so marvelous that they gave me the science prize. And the World's Fair heard about it and invited me down to appear there with my electric device.
Really?
Yeah. So you don't see many people around that were in the 1939 World's Fair anymore.
Yeah, I visited, but not. I just went around like a tourist. I remember it well.
Yeah.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah. Well, since I've been living in Lexington, I've got into quite a number of different things. For one thing, I got on the board of trustees of the senior center, the Council on Aging.
Right.
And that led me into working at various jobs. One of them, I got assigned to run the Fixit shop for a while.
I well remember.
Several years.
And the Fixit shop is, you might just clarify what that is.
The Fixit shop is a free place to get things repaired. And a lot of elderly people use it, but it's open to anybody who lives in Lexington. In fact, we never turn anybody down there, no matter where they live.
Yeah.
But it's mainly for people who live in Lexington. And you can bring any item in there, a radio, a broken chair, all kinds of things that need repair. Vacuum cleaners, you name it.
What do you see mostly at the Fixit
See a
shop?
lot of vacuum cleaners,
Yeah.
broken furniture that needs
Yeah.
repair. Those are very common items.
And when did the Fixit shop start?
As I recall, it was about 1986.
Yeah.
Started by a fellow named Elmer Bull, who was a professor, but he began the shop with one or two people and ran it that way for a few years, and then it gradually grew to about 6 people. And it's open 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Where is it?
It's at the senior center.
At the
at
community
the new, At the
center?
new senior center.
Yeah.
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 And it's very popular and still going after all these years.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember you were a major player in that.
Yeah. Other things I was in there, well, I was in the Young at Heart Singers, and I worked as a warden for the election polls.
Oh, yeah.
Worked on the Lexington Remembers committee,
Right.
which you're familiar with. And we've made over 50 programs that chronicle.
I remember you behind the camera on a lot of those interviews.
I did a lot of the camera work on those, and those cover a lot of the aspects of the history of Lexington.
Yeah.
Different stores, how they grew up, different businesses, where they came from. It's the 50 very interesting programs.
Yeah.
Oh, in year 2010, I got the Minuteman Cane Award.
Was it 2010?
Yeah, 2010.
Okay, that long ago.
That long ago.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So you have one yourself.
Well, I did, that's right.
Yeah. That's for people who've done a lot around town.
Yeah, right.
Don't know what else to do.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, it's a very, very nice award.
It is. Most recent award that I got was in my hometown, in the high school. They have a wall called the Wall of Distinction, and they have a plaque for people who have accomplished a lot during their livelihood. And I got nominated and elected to that organization.
Well, that's very, very nice.
Yeah.
When was that?
Oh, just a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And so I have a plaque there on that Wall of Distinction.
Well, that's great. Were the particular, at Raytheon, were the particular aspects of the radar that you worked on? Or?
Yeah, I worked on the devices, mostly the devices which produce the microwave energy. Those are called magnetrons, and they generate, whereas radio generates the low frequencies that you listen to at home. The magnetron generates very, very high frequencies. It's almost up to light frequency. At any rate, those devices, we made probably several hundred of them for various radar systems.
Yeah.
And produced them and sold them to the military, Army, Navy, Air Corps. And so, yeah, that was a lot of my work evolved around those, but then that led to using the equipment and making special trips to evaluate tests that we did on the equipment and assess the value of what we were producing.
Yeah.
So I worked on all those different radars in that capacity.
Well, a great career, very, very productive, and in so many ways.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We got some overseas travel. I had one assignment in Israel. My wife went with me,
Yeah,
and was there for 2 or 3 weeks. And then we had another one in Egypt.
yeah. Where in Egypt?
We went the whole business,
Yeah,
all the way from Abu Simbel up to Alexandria
yeah,
and Suez Canal,
yeah.
and through Karnak and all the sources of.
Well, you made a great contribution in a lot of different areas, and it sounds to me as though the two of you have had a lot of fun doing it.
We've had a ball.
So what could be better?
Nothing.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
You still awake?